Hi, hello everybody. Welcome back to Anode Academy. This is me, Ankita, and today's topic of interest is electronegativity. Okay, so we have been learning about the different periodic properties starting from atomic sizes, ionization energy, and today we are going to discuss about electronegativity. So let's start. What do you mean by electronegativity? Let's say that you have a bond between two carbon atoms. Okay, so there will be two electrons here, and these two electrons will be exactly at the center of the bond because the two atoms A and B do not have any difference. Okay, this is something that we know. Now, there are cases like CF. So this is the second case where the atoms that we consider are different now. And we already know from our basic classes that here the bonded electrons would shift towards fluorine from the center, right? And why is that so? That is because fluorine has got a better tendency to pull the electron towards itself, a greater relative tendency to pull the electrons towards itself. And that tendency of an element to pull the bonded electrons towards itself is called electronegativity. One more example. Let's say that you have carbon and lithium. Okay, so carbon and lithium, if you imagine in a periodic table, we know that lithium comes over here in the first group, and then you have to move towards right, and then only you see carbon. So as we from left to right, we know that the Z effective increases. Correct. If the Z effective increases, what happens to the size? The size decreases. So when the size decreases, the electrons that are present in the system will be more closer to the nucleus. So here, compared to lithium, carbon has got a higher tendency to pull the shared pair of electrons towards itself. All right. So I hope you understand by now that electronegativity is a relative tendency. Please note it down. So here, this is a relative tendency to attract the shared pair of electrons, to attract the shared pair of electrons towards itself. Okay, so very important that the type of tendency that we are talking about to be attracted is of shared pair of electrons. Why I'm saying this? Because in the next video, we'll be discussing about electron affinity. There also, there is some kind of tendency to pull the electrons, but that is different. So here we are talking about the tendency to pull an electron, which is shared between two species. Okay, so such a tendency to pull the electron towards itself is called electronegativity. Very easy. Now, what are the factors based on which these electronegativity is measured or interpreted, etc.? So, some of the factors we have already written over here. Write the main heading: factors affecting electronegativity. Factors affecting electronegativity. So, how is electronegativity represented by chi? This is a symbol that you use to represent electronegativity, chi. Okay, so the first one is Z effective, effective nuclear charge. We all know that if you take along a period, as we move from left to right, Z effective increases. We have also learned the Slater's rule by which we can measure the Z effective, correct? So as Z effective increases, usually electronegativity also increases. Why? Please do not by heart these things. You have to understand the concepts. Correct? Z effective increases means, let's say this is a nucleus over here and you have, this is a system 1. Let me draw it more symmetrically. This is system 1. And let's say you have another nucleus in the same period and this is system 2. Let's say. So if you place an electron over here, and if you place an electron over here, let's say this is the same shell, n is equal to 2, two different sizes. Why would that be? It is because of the strength of the nucleus. In the first case, the nucleus is strong enough to pull the electrons towards itself, and hence the size of the atom is very small. Here, the nucleus is not that strong or does not have such amount of effective nuclear charge to pull the electron, and hence it is larger. So Z effective and size is already related, we know that. Apart from that, Z effective is also related to electronegativity, right? So if you have very strong nucleus, the shared pair of electrons, whatever you have, will also be pulled strongly. Okay, so as Z effective increases, electronegativity also increases. Next one, size. We know that as Z effective increases, your size decreases, and if size decreases, electronegativity increases. Just relating to this. So I can say that electronegativity is inversely proportional to size. That can be also explained by this diagram over here. So you have two different sizes, and you have an electron which is kept over here. So in the smaller size, the nucleus is very close. It will pull the electrons. So I am showing just one electron over here. The same is the scenario if you have a shared pair of electrons as well. Here the system is very large. The nucleus is not that strong enough to pull the electron, and hence it won't be strong enough to pull the shared pair of electrons also. Okay. Next, related to size. So we learned, so you have to just learn the earlier concepts to understand these concepts easily. Now we know that size of a system increases with positive charge. Correct? So if positive charge increases, your size decreases. Correct? And from the second factor, we have learned that if size decreases, your electronegativity increases. Right. So more the positive charge, smaller will be the species, and smaller the species, higher the electronegativity. The opposite one as well. More the negative charge, higher would be the size, and if higher the size, lower the electronegativity. So if I have to summarize over here, I can write that electronegativity increases with positive charge and decreases with negative charge. Oh. Now last one is based on S character. S character. This is something that you will be very familiar in general organic chemistry as well. Okay, so here S character, what we say is you can have hybridizations of sp2, sp3 and sp respectively. sp3, sp2, sp, wherein the percentage of S character over here is. So here there are a total of 4 orbitals and is S, right? So 1 by 4 into 100, 25% over here. This is 1 by 3. Out of the 3 orbitals, 1 is S. So this is 33.3%. And sp and 1 is S, and that is 50% of S character. So as the S character increases, as the percentage of S character increases, the electronegativity also increases. Okay? Now this is with respect to a single atom. If you have different hybridizations of different atoms, for that you have to learn a graph. Okay? You will understand what I said from this graph. Let's say this is electronegativity, and along this you have several atoms. We said that electronegativity increases with S character. So if I'm taking carbon as my species, in carbon, sp will have the highest electronegativity, then sp2, and least will be sp3. Okay, so this is within carbon. Carbon sp3, carbon sp2, carbon sp. Now let's say I want to compare it with nitrogen. So what will happen? That is where you have to play, or you have to understand the concept. If it is nitrogen, the sp3 of nitrogen lies between sp2 and sp here. This is sp3 of nitrogen, above which you have sp2 of nitrogen, and above you have sp of nitrogen. The trend is the same. Let's say you go to the next one, oxygen. Oxygen. So oxygen is the next one in the period, right? And if you consider oxygen, between sp2 and sp of nitrogen, you have the position of sp3 oxygen, then comes sp2 oxygen, and sp oxygen. Okay, so this is very, very important. Okay, I hope you get it. We'll do some model problems so that you can understand. Okay, so the first case is, let's say you compare sp3 hybridized CH3 with sp3 hybridized NH2. Both of these are sp3. Both of these are sp3, so you know how to compare. The end atoms are the same. Hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. They are the same. So you have to compare the central atoms, carbon and nitrogen. Among carbon and nitrogen, in the period, carbon is over here and towards the right you have nitrogen. Nitrogen's Z effective is more than carbon. Z effective of nitrogen is more than that of carbon. And hence the electronegativity of nitrogen is also more than that of carbon. So over here, it is like this. Okay, now I'm going to change the scenario. Let's say you have CF3. Again, these are sp3 hybridized systems in carbon. And you have NF2. Again, this is sp3, sorry, sp3 hybridized. Okay. So here also, listen to me. End atoms are the same. So we need to compare the central atoms, carbon versus nitrogen. Nitrogen is more electronegative. So the strength is like this. All right. Now, pay attention. I have CF3 with NH2. Okay. So here you cannot compare the central atoms. Why? Because the end atoms itself are different. You can see here it is fluorines, but here it is hydrogens. So environment changes. If the environment changes, you have to take that also into consideration. Got it. So if that is also taken into consideration, what will happen? Listen, in CF, we know that these bonded electrons in CF will be pulled towards fluorine because fluorine is electronegative than that of carbon. Correct? So that will induce a partial positive charge over here. Similarly over here as well, and over here as well. Okay, so because of the highly electronegative environment of fluorines besides carbon, here CF3 with a very huge positive charge. We said, right, as positive charge increases, electronegativity also increases, right? So this increase in the positive charge of CF3 dominates, and Electronegativity of CF3 is more than that of NH2. Okay, so I hope you get an idea. Now, for the exam, the questions that they can ask apart from these factors is the value of electronegativity, calculating the value. Right on the heading, calculating electronegativity. So first one, I'll write the most recent one, which has been asked in the exam. Okay, please write it as PYQ. It's been asked. It is Allred-Rocco. Allred-Rocco scale. So there are different scales. This might not be familiar. I'm writing this ahead because questions been asked. Okay, Allred-Rocco scale. So according to this scale, electronegativity of a species can be found by a formula. You have to learn the formula, which is 0.359 Z effective by R square plus 0.744. Please let me check if what I've written is right. Yes. Okay. So 0.359 into Z effective. How do you find the Z effective? Z effective can be found from the Slater's rule, which we have already discussed. Important. Slater's rule, when you consider over here, you have to take the position at periphery. At periphery. Please pay attention. At periphery. So in Slater's rule video, we did discuss how to find the Z effective. In the shell, at the boundary, at the periphery, all we discussed. Please refer to the video, revise the topic once again. So if you have periphery, you don't do that extra step of -1. Okay. For example, if the electron is in S or P, what's the equation? It is number of electrons in nth shell into 0.35 plus number of electrons in n minus 1th shell into 0.85 and rest of the electrons into 1. This is the screening constant. Okay. Because we have taken periphery, we just take nth shell, number of electrons in nth shell into 0.35. There is no -1. Please pay attention to that. Okay. And R square over here is in Armstrong units. Is in Armstrong units. It's put in Armstrong units. Okay. All right. Important, you have to learn the equation. Second one is the Pauling scale. Pauling scale. So Pauling scale actually has given the way to find the changes in the electronegativity, not changes, the difference. For example, if you have two species, A, B, this is the molecule of interest, and you want to know the electronegativity difference. Okay, so what it says is the difference in electronegativity of AB is modulus of electronegativity of A minus electronegativity of B. Very easy. But there is an added equation. This is equal to, pay attention, root of bond dissociation energy of AB minus again root of bond dissociation energy of AA into BB. Okay, please note it down. This is bond dissociation. Bond dissociation means the energy which is required to break that bond. Energy of AB. EA is obvious, bond dissociation energy of AA. And EBB is bond dissociation energy of BB. Okay. So when we put all these values, at last you're supposed to get the answer in electron volts. You're supposed to get the answer in electron volts. Okay. Next one, Mulliken scale. So, okay, write one more line. Pauling scale is actually a relative scale. This is actually whatever electronegativity is the value that you get. It is relative scale with respect to fluorine. Okay? Pauling scale is with respect to something. For example, if I say that I'm going to my school, it is 10 kilometers away from my home. So I'm referring it with respect to my home. Okay. So there is a reference point. So in Pauling scale, you have that reference point which is fixed at fluorine. It is relative with respect to fluorine. Okay. The third one is Mulliken scale, which is absolute. It's not relative. It's just absolute scale. Absolute scale. And here electronegativity is simply ionization energy in electron volts plus electron affinity, which we are going to learn in electron volts divided by 2. I think this equation has also been asked once. Ionization energy, IE, plus I'm not writing, please write it down. Ionization energy, this is ionization energy. You have to substitute in electron volts plus electron affinity, about which we will be discussing in the next video, by 2. Okay. So this is how you find the Mulliken scale electronegativity. Now in questions, they might ask you to interchange between Pauling and Mulliken scale. Understand that the Mulliken scale is always larger than Pauling scale 2.8 times. Mulliken scale is 2.8 times larger than Pauling scale. And if the examiner has not mentioned the scale, okay, if the examiner has not mentioned the scale, you have to report the answer in Pauling scale. If scale is not mentioned, if scale is not mentioned in question, okay, report the answer in Pauling scale always. Report the answer in Pauling scale. Okay, important. So with that, we have completed the different scales. So we started off with the definition and then some factors, very easy, and 3 scales. You have to learn the formulae. We'll do the problems probably in the next, not next video, after that. Okay. Now next one is the applications. Applications. Applications of electronegativity. Applications of electronegativity. And the first application is to predict the nature of oxides. To predict the nature of oxides. Okay. So oxides you need not write, let me tell you, are of mainly 4 types. One is acidic. Second one is basic. Third one is neutral, meaning it's neither acidic nor basic. And the fourth one is amphoteric. Amphoteric means it can act both as acidic or basic. Okay. So first one, let's start with acidic oxides. Acidic oxides. So we know acidic oxides are those or let's say any acid, if you want to mention, there are different definitions, of course. But over here, the concept that we will be taking is they have to accept lone pair of electrons. Okay. Acids are those who accepts lone pair of electrons. Acids. Bases are those who are ready to donate the lone pair of electrons. Okay. So that is clear. So in acidic oxides, if they have to accept the lone pair, one among the major criteria that they should have is high oxidation state. Correct? High oxidation states. Correct. So let's say you have to compare between Cl2O7, SO3, P4O10, and okay, these three, let's say. So first of all, we have to find the oxidation state. Oxide to always will be in -2. Here we don't know the oxidation state of fluorine. So 2x minus 14 is equal to 0. X is equal to +7. I hope you know how to calculate the oxidation state. It's very easy. Calculate over here as well. X minus 6 is equal to 0. Here it is +6. 4x minus 20 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 5. Okay. So if you can see, chlorine over here carries +7 as its positive charge, meaning it is the most deficient of electrons. Correct? It is the most deficient. So what will happen? The tendency for Cl2O7 to accept the electrons will be the highest, then SO3 and then P4O10. This is the order of acidity. Easy. Easy. Right. Next one is basicity. So basicity, as we said, it is a tendency of the species to donate the lone pair of electrons. Basic oxides. So it is a tendency of the species to donate the electrons, and hence it should possess low oxidation states. Low oxidation states, preferably less than or equal to 2. Okay. For example, if you take Na2O and CaO, both of these are basic oxides. So if you compare these two, here the oxidation state on Na is +1 and here it is +2. So what we can understand is +1 means only 1 electron is less, +2 means 2 electrons are less. So this species will have more tendency to donate lone pair of electrons, and hence this is more basic. Right. So you can also get species with similar oxidation states. Let's say you have CuO and CaO, copper oxide and calcium oxide. Over here, both the systems are in +2. +2. This is atomic number. Calcium is 20. This is 29. As we move from left to right, Z effective increases, electronegativity increases. Okay. Z effective increases, electronegativity increases. Basic oxides are those who should have the tendency to donate. Correct? So, because the electronegativity of copper is greater than calcium, they cannot donate. So, what will happen? The trend is opposite, like this. Okay. I hope you're understanding the points. So, this is how you find regarding to the basic oxides. Next, neutral oxides. Neutral oxides, so you have to learn that they are neither acidic nor basic. You cannot call them acidic or basic. NO, CO, and N2O. You have to learn them by heart. They are neither acidic nor basic. Okay? And on the other hand, you have amphoteric species. Amphoteric species, oxides. So amphoteric oxides are those which can act as both acids and bases depending on the solvent. Okay? So can be acidic or basic. So there is a long list of elements which combines with oxygen to give amphoteric oxides, and you have to learn them. You might get questions, you have to learn them. Okay? Zinc, aluminium, beryllium, gallium, lead, tin, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, indium, germanium. I have a code for this. Okay, so if you can learn it like this, please learn it like this. Otherwise, you learn the code. Okay, so the code is zinc, Alice, bear, gave, peanut, snacks, peanut snacks. That's it. This is my first code. Okay. So zinc, you have to learn that name. Okay. Zinc. Ali is for aluminium. Bear is for beryllium. Gave is for gallium. Peanut is for lead. Tin, snacks, SN. Arsenic, antimony, bismuth, indium, germanium. That is acids, sibling, bought, Indian, gems. Okay. Acid, arsenic, sibling, S and B, antimony, bought, only B is there. Don't think it is boron, it is bismuth. Indian, indium, gems, GE, germanium. Okay. So whatever oxides they form, example, aluminium oxide. Is it basic? Yes. Is it acidic? Yes. Because it can behave both as acid and basic. Aluminium oxide, zinc oxide. Okay, I hope you understand now. All of these are examples. Arsenic oxide. All these are examples of amphoteric oxides. So this is the first application. Next application is the acidity of oxoacids. Oxoacids. So oxoacids means HCl4, H2SO4, H3PO4, etc. Here also the concept is the same. Let's say you have, let's understand by problems, okay? HClO7, H2SO4, H3PO4, HNO3, and H2CO3. Okay. And you have to compare the acidity. Of course, just like the earlier case, let's find the oxidation state first. So this is H will be +1, oxygen will be -2. So you can solve them. This comes out to be -8 plus this is 7. This is 6. This is 5, 5, 4. Okay. So higher the oxidation state, higher will be its tendency to accept electrons. Correct. Higher will be the tendency. So here HClO4 will come first, then H2SO4, And then you have two species with the same oxidation state. So the next one that you can compare is electronegativity. Electronegativity of nitrogen is greater than phosphorus because phosphorus is in the third period, nitrogen is in the second period. So HNO3, H3PO4, and last comes H2CO3. Okay. The other way that you can do is, so these are all having different oxidation states. Let's say you have same oxidation states like H3PO4, H3PO3, and H3PO2, let's say. So over here, if you calculate, are the oxidation states the same? No, right? Plus 3 plus X minus 8 plus 5 plus 3 plus X minus 6 plus 3 plus 3 plus X minus 4. Okay. Okay. So over here, there is a problem. By just looking at the oxidation states, you might think that H3PO4 is the largest, than H3PO3, then H3PO2. No, that is wrong. Okay, that's not the case over here. The reason is, let me explain structurally. That is a problem with this inorganic chemistry. You learn one trend and then you have a lot of exceptions. So this is H3PO4. Then you have H3PO12. Okay. Like this. H3PO3. And then you have like this. Okay. These are the species. So here the first thing that happens is phosphorus and oxygen. Oxygen is electronegative and will tend to pull the electrons over here, and oxygen will stay as oxygen minus. So here there is a partial positive charge and here there will be a negative charge. Positive, negative, positive, negative. And when the scenario happens, look at the surrounding environment. So you have lone pairs of electrons over here. Each of the oxygens will have lone pairs of electrons. Correct. Each of these will have lone pairs of electrons. So this positive charge is best compensated over here because there are 3 O species which can donate its oxygen, or not oxygen, which can donate its lone pair of electrons and suppress the oxygen. Sorry. There are 3 oxygens surrounding which can donate its lone pair and suppress the oxidation state. Correct. But here there are only 2. Here there is only 1. So comparatively, the positive charge is the lowest here and the highest here. Did you get my point? You cannot look at the oxidation states over here. This is wrong. How will you understand that? Can you understand it logically? No. If you have not read this before, you cannot do for the exam. And that is why we suggest that there is a huge risk in learning main group elements, SPDF. Because if you have not gone through that particular element or the trend, then there are high chances that the questions may go wrong. Okay, so over here, if you see that all the phosphorus atoms carry a positive charge due to the resonance with the double bonded oxygen, and that positive charge is suppressed the highest over here, and hence this is the least. and the highest is H3PO. This is the correct acidic trend. Okay. So that's done. Then we have last one, third one. With this we'll wind up. Third one. Prediction of acidity and basicity of hydra acids. Not oxo acids. Oxo acids means you had a central atom and attached to the central atom you had OH. Okay? You had a central atom attached to which you had OH. This is oxo acid. Hydra acid means you will have a central atom attached to H. That's it. Okay. So here you have to learn them in two different aspects. One is in terms of period and the other one is in terms of group. So along a period, left to right, along a period, electronegativity is the factor that dominates. Correct? Electronegativity increases, size decreases. Which is the dominating factor? Electronegativity is the dominating factor along a period. So, if you have a series of, let's say, CH4, NH3, H2O, and HF, and you have to compare the acidity. So here the central atom is attached to H, and these are all hydra acids. So for acidity, I have represented like this, okay? So see what are the central atoms: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. As you move from left to right, electronegativity is the dominating factor. If the electronegativity increases, the electrons within the bond, let's say HF, will be pulled closer to that particular central atom. And acid is anybody who can leave as H plus, correct? So this can readily give its electron and leave as H plus. So the trend is HF, water, NH3 and CH4. Okay. The same thing with basicity. If I have to write the basicity, let's say for NH3, which has got a lone pair of electrons, water, which has got two lone pairs of electrons. Don't think that you have two lone pairs of electrons and hence it will readily donate. No. HF has got three lone pair of electrons. So basicity is where you donate the lone pair of electrons, but F being highly electronegative won't give the lone pair of electrons and hence is least basic. Correct? This is the order of basicity. So along a period, whenever you check the acidity or basicity of the species, you have to take electronegativity as the dominating factor. Electronegativity as the dominating factor. But let's say you go down the group. Down the group, electronegativity decreases and your size increases. Correct? And over here, your size is the dominating factor. Size is the dominating factor. That's what I said. So along a period, you will write the acidity and basicity in the order of electronegativity. Here, you will take the order of size. Let me explain. Acidity. Let's say I have HF, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. Okay. So as we move down the group, if you explain it in terms of electronegativity, which I'm not doing, your answer will go wrong. Because down the group, you have to consider size as the dominating factor. Okay. So here you have two species, H and F. They are small, so they'll be very good in overlapping. They'll hug each other very easily. Okay. Then you have Cl, Br, and Hi. So what happens as the size of the counter ion increases, the overlap with the H ion decreases. And as a result, the order of acidity over here is, because the overlap is the least because of the very huge size of iodine, it can readily liberate H plus, then HBr, then HCl, and HF. So based on electronegativity, you might feel that fluorine is most electronegative and then it will readily give H. No, 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 no. Here, Hi having the least overlapping because of the huge size will readily donate H. And hence Hi is the most acidic. Okay, Hi is the most acidic. Similarly, if I have to compare with the basicity, I have NH3 lone pair of electrons, PH3 lone pair of electrons, nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony. Okay, these are the species. Imagine. So these all fall within a group, right? Nitrogen, phosphorus, and arsenic, antimony, and bismuth. These are in a group, 15th group. So over here, what happens is, again, basicity is where you have to donate the lone pair of electrons. So as your size increases, what happens is, here the lone pair has a lot of space to occupy and can localize and stay there freely. Here, 2 electrons can freely occupy these sites and they are comfortable. But over here, the space is minimal and hence this will try to escape first. Okay. So over here, NH3 is most basic. If you again write in terms of electronegativity, your answer will go wrong. Here, size is the dominating factor and hence NH3 is most basic. So as your size increases, your basicity decreases. Okay. So that's it. We have learned the applications of electronegativity as well. I know there are a lot of concepts coming within a same lecture, exceptions, but then listen to it again and again. If there are confusing topics, please mark them, highlight them, put stars, put it inside a cloud, whatever, so that you can grab your attentions for the next revision. So revision is the key. That's not taking in all the thing. No, that is the first step. After which you have to practice, revise, practice, revise, practice, revise. That is where your true preparation lies. Okay? All right. So we have one more lecture left, electron affinity. We'll continue in the next. Bye. See.